Hey everybody, Hosterone here with another First Edition Friday video. The first Edition Friday video of the year 2025. Next week's video, which I've already recorded, I will be unsure if that video is the first video of 2025. But no, I've decided this video is going to be the first video of 2025. And the reason why is I came up with this idea for this video here just a little bit ago. I was reading the forums. And in the forums, our rules master James Heaney talks about how here in January, Premier Remastered is going to be released. It's going to have redone versions of Premier cards with new text that either clarifies how they work or flat out errata that makes them work properly without the need for additional rules bulkage, but then also like a rebalancing of some of these cards. And it made me think that I think I wanted my first video for 2025 to be a wish list, where I'm just going to talk about what it is that I'm hoping to see this year in the game. I of course realize that I'm probably going to get like 0 to 1 of these things, maybe, because, and as I will discuss at some point, at the end of 2023, I posted a video where I was hoping that we'd see a bunch of errata in 2024, and I went over the errata that I would think I would see, basically proposed errata that the errata team could have quite literally just taken and play tested, and a lot of it probably would get through pretty much probably as is, because I have been a play tester. I know how to like mentally and pre-play test things, and you're not going to get like someone who can like see the bigger picture of some of these cards than me. No ego intended there, but I mean, when you're the #1 rated player in the world, I mean, you kind of see the game a bit differently. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. But what I wanted to do for this video is kind of a similar thought as that one, where instead of it just being like, oh, let's just talk about the errata list and all the errata that we could get in 2024, what I want to do with this video is I want to do a video where I guess what I think might come about here in 2025 and what I hope will come about in 2025. My understanding is that these two premier redone sets for the 30th anniversary, both the reprinting of all the old cards and then now this remastered set where the premier set is being redone to make it better in line for the modern format, have basically bogarted, if not almost outright, completely dominated the work of both the rules team and the balance team, which is apparently probably then the reason why all of the proposed errata to ban list cards have never come about, because they've been so busy worrying about this nonsense and not about the actual ban list. I know that Charlie's talked about the fact that they do really want to work on getting cards off the ban list. I am now hoping that 2025 will finally be that year, and I will once again say to the balance team, to the rules team, you are welcome to take any of the ideas and proposed errata that I had in that video and take it and use it and play test it and make all the tweaks you want. I don't care. I just want to see these cards come off the ban list. There are so many cards on the ban list that just need to come out, and it does not take a whole lot for them to come off the ban list, in my opinion. So get to work. But beyond that, there are other things that I would like to see come about in 2025, but I've kind of put together a little list here. So here's my wish list for 2025. And again, I will say it again, to the design team, to the rules team, to the balance team, feel free to use any and all of this. You have my legal disclosure to use any of my ideas. I will not sue you for, copyright infringement or idea theft or intellectual property theft or any of that nonsense. Not gonna happen. I don't care. No one should care. Just take these, run with these ideas. I feel like some of these ideas are actually really, really good. And we're going to start off with the one that I think is probably one of the most important ones. And that is that TNG Borg need help. And the two cards that they could get that could radically change how TNG Borg is played, and I think in a manner that would be very balanced, would be if they would get a universal TNG Borg cube and a universal TNG Borg scout vessel. A universal TNG Borg cube is an entirely possible thing. They can use the Borg cube that is seen in the Voyager episode with the Seven of Nine's parents, the one that they are tracking and following and whatever else like that. That was a TNG era Borg cube. So there's your art design for that card. But we know that universal Borg cubes exist in the TNG era. So as far as an actual did it exist in the universe? Well, of course it did. So you can totally do it. You can basically write a card that just is universal Borg cube, or maybe just universal Borg cube vessel, or Borg, Borg scout cube, or something like that, where you can basically just, you name it, and then you have a new universal Borg cube, or as you just have to do something with the naming convention so that it's a universal Borg cube. But you just mess with the naming, I think. And then if you use the AI, though, unfortunately, from the Voyager episode, I mean, if you're being strict about it, then that's a Voyager property logo. But that always gets around by, just putting text on the card that just says if your continuing mission is in play, this card gains the TNG icon. So that's not a problem. And of course, there you go. So what it would do, though, on a practical level, is it would give TNG Borg decks the ability to retask. The retask downloading drone is a TNG icon card, and so the fact that the TNG Borg cannot really do retasking is kind of annoying, because the only universal Borg cube that exists is not playable in TNG. So you have that drone download a cube and 7 drones, but then it immediately breaks your continuing mission. So that's why they need it, so that TNG Borg have a whole new avenue to play. It doesn't really alter anything else that they do. It would just be a new way for them to be able to do something fun and interesting. And along with it, a universal TNG Borg scout vessel would open up Scout Encounter, which is something TNG Borg should be able to have access to. TNG Borg would then be able to play a scout vessel ship with crew, and then try to trigger a Borg cube, a Borg ship dilemma at a nebula or something like that, so that the universal TNG Borg would have access to the retask trick. I mean, it's right there, and there you go. And you could always put additional restrictions on it that the universal TNG Borg cube could just simply have on it that if your continuing mission in play and you command no neutral zone missions, this ship, so that there's things you can do with it just to give them a universal Borg cube, but also not necessarily play into the things that TNG Borg are already doing really, really well. So I mean, I would really love to see it. Fact of the matter is that TNG Borg are down right now. They're down hard. Persistent individuality being extremely ubiquitous has basically made TNG Borg almost unplayable right now, because it's harder for them to put drones in play than all property Borg, and wiping out 7 of them just basically just crushes them, right? And they only really ever have 1 cube in play at a time, so there's no real way to get around it. Okay, yes, they do have the ability they could construct Starship, put an outpost there, and then just scout with, some drones on the cube, but they're still losing 3. Persistent individuality is still a lose 3 endeavor, okay? And of course, the TNG Borg have to put that additional effort into downloading an outpost or what have you in order to be able to do all that. So it's not really all that good. Then there's the fact that the ultimate user has been tampered down significantly. Relentless has basically been almost completely nerfed. I mean, it has basically just one function on it, and that is that you can adapt on the same turn, but you have to scout with multiple drones. And of course, the line on Relentless that says that scouting is complete at the end of turn is already the scouting rule. So I don't even know why that line is even on that card anymore, because it's just restating the scouting rules. So TNG Borg is way down. Nobody's playing with it outside of the one kind of like weird deck this last year that I think was played by Stefan Slavey, that like screwed up the hand. I think it was Stefan that played it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering. If I'm misremembering, I apologize to whoever did play it. But it was the one that attacked the opponent's hand and played with a ton of cards and stuff, and was a really clever idea. But I mean, it's like hard to impossible for TNG Borg to just play straight up the way that they were meant to be played right now. So I think Universal Cube and a Universal Scout Vessel would just drastically open up the options for them. And that would only be a good thing, I think, then. So, all right, the next big one, my next big wish list item, is I would like to see an update to artifacts. Artifacts have been the redheaded stepchild of the game for a long time. While they do have their uses, and sometimes when those uses are useful, they're sometimes so extremely useful that they are like almost borderline broken. So I'm not saying we need like a wholesale like redo to artifacts. It's just that the difference between the ones that are usable and the ones that are not are so stark that, you know, it clearly kind of implies that artifacts are just, like, as a card type, are just not really useful. And so you're not really, like, you don't really have artifacts as a card type so much as you have, like, certain cards that are extremely powerful that just happen to be artifacts. So there are many ways. Just a couple ideas that came to me at the top of my head is that maybe as a new rule you get to seed one artifact for free. Same way that like site or missions and sites and stuff went from being like they cost seed slots to they didn't. We could see a rule that you get to seed one artifact for free. And then maybe the rule is that you get two artifacts for free, but that's it. Like, you don't get any other artifacts. So same way with sites. That sites that you may seed up to 6 sites for free, but no more than that. We could have artifacts. You get to seed 1 or 2 of them for free, and then no more than that can be seeded unless you're somehow doing it some other way. So, like recover stolen material would still work and stuff like that. So, it would also maybe arguably make recover stolen material like even more powerful, because then you're really breaking like the limit of what you can do. That would make that card even better, which might be a fun thing. So maybe make them more useful where certain ones can be seeded. You get to see 2 of them at a mission, or you design a card that basically just says that you can download and seed 2 artifacts at that mission for free or something like that, and have that card be unique. There's lots of things that you do. You could design new cards that would do the same thing. There are already missions in the game that allow you to seed, like any number of orb artifacts may seed here for both Cardassia and characterizing Trino missions and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of things that can be done, both rules-wise and card design-wise, to help out artifacts. It's a very open area of the sandbox that hasn't even really been explored yet, and I think it should be, and it's probably like long overdue. Then of course, like, the remaining option would be to issue a errata to a bunch of artifacts, the ones that just don't ever really see play, but if they did see play, could be really cool. And I do kind of have in mind which ones they are, and we'll go over those here real quick for the funness of it. So like Roger Maris baseball card, it's in the Fajo collection. I don't know that anyone has ever played this card ever, because the only thing it does is trade for some other artifact in play. Since people are not really necessarily using artifacts, I think if we changed it to the rule of you get to see one or two artifacts for free but no more, then people would play with artifacts for free just because they can. And then all of a sudden Roger Maris baseball card gets to be really good, because if there's not one that you're like, well, I want to have this one, but the ability to steal your opponents would be really good. So, I mean, a rules change would mean you wouldn't have to change like this card too much. But other than that, if you don't change the rule and people may not necessarily have an artifact in play, this card could be errata too. During your turn, you may trade this artifact for any opponents, and then you could limit it to say like personnel or event on a mission or whatever. Like you could change this to you could exchange for something else. So, yeah. So there's a lot of ways that this card could be changed. I would love to see this card get played. Alien gambling device, and this probably doesn't need too much change. Antique machine gun, same thing. I think if Rogue Borg get their errata here, which is what's being hinted at in the Premier Remastered, that they're going to come off the ban list. It'll be one of the first cards to come off the ban list here, which would be great. Then this card might get better. Betazoid Gift Box is one of the good artifacts. Same with Blade of Takan. I mean, Kanar, absolutely sucks. This is one of those artifacts that, I mean, I don't even know if there even is a way to make it good. So, Croton's Key's problem is it can only seed in the Gamma Quadrant. But of course, like, since it's a used as equipment card, like Starry Night makes Croton's Key at least viable. So, I don't know if they can mess with this one. Kraus Satellite's always been good. It's one of the few elements that's always been good. Data's Head is so limited use, but it really is more of an equipment card than an artifact, but it just has to be an artifact to make it work the way you want it to. Horgon's already gotten errata from being ridiculously too good to now it's just decent, which is great. I think Horgon's in a good place right now. Iconian Gateway is never going to get changed from what it is, other than maybe you don't have to put it in your hand and then play it. Iconian Gateway, I think, would deserve a really great errata where it just, once you acquire it, it immediately just goes on that planet. So, yeah, that's the way that Iconian Gateway should really be changed, and then it might become playable. The problem with artifacts has always been that they're already slow because you can't get them early, and so then having to put it in your hand and then use your card play to play it, that's too much. I would like to see Iconian Gateway get an errata to just the moment it acquired, it goes on the planet. So it would just say like, when earned, immediately play on this planet. Immediately play on this planet location as an event card. And then, of course, it would not have a target and not be playable like if it was seated in space. So, but that would kind of balance it out, maybe just ever so slightly to make it, probably like both make sense but also be fair. Interface generator. What would be cool is if this list just simply got updated. If we got to see an interface generator either add to or change some of these cards that it mentions. Like Impassable Doors is never going to get played. Rebel Encounter is never getting played. Chelnoth is never getting played. Like, some of these could come off this list and could be changed for other, like, more popular lists. I would like to see Interface Generator, maybe like, say, Deniven Neuroparasites on it, or Founder's Secret. Instead of the Impassable Door, it says Founder's Secret, a dilemma that actually sees play. That would be really cool. And then instead, like, in Rebel Encounter, like Hanonian Land Eel. There's a bunch of, like, much more popular dilemmas. Like V'ger might be a good one to put on this list instead. Dilemmas that have proven themselves to be extremely powerful that could use, like, a weird counter out of an artifact. So, yeah, that's what I'd like to see with Interface Generator, just to have this list updated. That design could quite literally just figure out what group of dilemmas that are heavily played and they would like to see like design and balance would like to see get maybe toned down just a little bit accidentally in such an incidental manner. That'd be pretty cool. Kirschar has already been good and had to be errata. Kirk's reading glasses I think is underplayed right now. I think it's an exceptionally good artifact and probably deserves to see more play than it's seeing right now. Kurlan Naskos has always had its uses at different times. I think it suffers basically from the same problem as Iconian Gateway. The fact that you have to put it in your hand and then play it, which means that it's a whole turn that your opponent can see you take it into hand, and then they can nullify it when you play it. It costs your whole card play on the next turn. Just makes it too slow. It needs to go on that ship immediately. I'd like to see Kurlan Naskos just basically be an equipment card. Just have it be like use it as equipment while on, any ship that is on, if it has all, like just change it to that for Kurlan Naskos. Same with Iconian Gateway. Maybe Iconian Gateway should just be used as equipment card as well. Like you may use as equipment card while on a planet. You may move from this planet to any other any other planet location or anything like that. I think maybe, given the state of the game and stuff, I think having it also make more Trek sense as well. But having Iconian Gateway. Instead of it saying to any other planet, it could just be like move instantly from Iconian Gateway to any other to any other planet or ship or facility, so that you can just like pop onto your opponent. You could use Iconian Gateway as a way to, in a battle deck, like in a battle deck would be able to like, okay, it would encourage a battle deck to want to solve a mission early so it could use Iconian Gateway as a way to screw with the opponent. Then maybe Iconian Gateway would just have like some kind of nullification text, or because if it's used as equipment card, then it would be subject to being nullified by Disruptor Overload, which is a card that people should be playing anyway. So I think Iconian Gateway, along with Kurlan Naskos, have them change to use as equipment cards, and thus, Disruptor Overload becomes like the obvious counter card, and so that'd be like the natural way that these cards would be nullifiable, because Disruptor Overload is such a more useful counter than like Kevin Uxbridge or whatever, because those cards come with like you lose points, and so it's way easier to convince players to put Disruptor Overload in their deck. So Magic Carberite, I think it's actually good the way it is. No notes on this one. I think that people just don't know how to use it. I think there's a deck that could be out there that could use it. Mona Lisa, I just love the fact that if it is Disruptor Overloaded, it just instantly makes them lose the points. So I think that's pretty cool. So it's not really like you don't want to use it, but a player could use Mona Lisa as a like soft deterrent. Like if you are playing the deck with like Kurlan Naskos, if you try to also acquire a Mona Lisa, you would then be able to like soft protect your Kurlan Naskos maybe, or at the very least, like if they miss, then they lose 25 points. That'd be pretty cool. Mysterious Orb is actually really good the way it is. Yeah. Off Sale Base is one of the few highly used artifacts out there. It is very good the way it is. Ophidian Cane, same thing. Now that the Foragers exist as a card and Davidian Door has gotten a boost to come back into the game, Ophidian Cane is good now again. So you can special download an Ophidian Cane using the Foragers, and you could also seed an Ophidian Cane so you could do it again. The orbs are all really good as they are. I don't really have any notes on that. Persistence of Memory. I feel like this card should be seeing more use, but it doesn't, because Horgon isn't. Horgon got made where it's fair now, but now Davidian Door has gotten better again. Then of course these cards all are either like they're either gone or they have their own whatever, their own. They're either banned themselves or have been nerfed and errata and stuff like that. They have their own counters. And so Persistence of Memory was made worse. I don't know what you could do with Persistence of Memory. other than to once again also like maybe expand the list here to some cards. If there's some other cards that have come out that could be reversed that are good, maybe those get added on to this one. Phased cloaking device. Sees use if someone uses the Pegasus. I don't really know how you would change this one. Receptacle stones absolutely sucks. I mean, it's good to like, you do a planet first, you get your receptacle stones, and then you like face a space dilemma. You face your opponent's nasty space dilemmas, then you make their ship and crew also face it. Maybe receptacle stones should see more use. I don't know. Like, again, this is one where like if you got to have like one artifact or two artifacts for free in your seed deck, receptacle stones would be a pretty fun one to do. Strictly speaking, again, if we're just spitballing and brainstorming ideas here, it could be where the rule on artifacts is like you get to bring 6 artifacts. You get to choose 6 artifacts, or you have to bring if you choose to bring, 6 or 8 or 10 artifacts, and then if you do, you get to seed like 2 of them for free, but they're randomly selected. So like you would shuffle them up, and your opponent would randomly pick 2 and decide, and then you could decide which of your missions they go under. Like receptacle stones might actually would make the cut in that kind of if that's the way the rules worked. Because then, these other ones are really good and they're what I would want, but receptacle stones would still be useful. So, and even if you don't do that, that's still a good card. Even if you don't do the rule, that's an excellent idea for a card. So, again, design, balance, rules, anyone who's watching, looking at you, Patty, please run with that idea. Run with that idea. That's me pitching a card right off the cuff of my sleeve. Would be like a seedable incident that, or objective that would be like you choose 7 or 8 artifacts that you place on there from outside the game, and then you randomly choose when you attempt a mission. When you randomly attempt a mission, you randomly choose one of those artifacts to go underneath that mission, or when you complete that mission, you randomly get to pull one of those artifacts off there to be acquired. That would be pretty cool. Resican Flute hasn't seen play since it basically got limited, which was a good thing. I think that Resican Flute needed to be limited. Unlimited things are usually bad for card games when they're not carefully considered. I think Resican Flute could still see play. I mean, theoretically, again, with the idea that I just pitched, if you have some music in a deck, you could have Resican Flute be one of your 7 or 8 choices that you get randomly choose from. Would be pretty cool. Now here's the one that actually made me think that this is one that absolutely needs a change, because it could be such a good card that actually sees a decent amount of play, but would not be overpowered, and that's Sultanah Clock. Instead of it placing on ship or facility opponent's choice, this is specifically one where it should just be use as equipment card, personnel aboard must initiate battle whenever possible, that way, it would just be personnel present must initiate battle whenever possible. So what Sultanah Clock could do then as an artifact, if it's an equipment card that you could run around with, is that it would not just force just shit battles, which is all it really does, for the most part, is it would also allow people, and would be a card for Federation. So you could make a Federation battle deck with a Sultanah Clock, where you acquire Sultanah Clock, and then those people are moving that Sultanah clock around, forcing themselves to battle opponents on, on planets and have their ships shoot and stuff like that. And then, and then what would happen is that since a personnel present must initiate battle whenever possible, like you beam down to your opponent's team, the moment it hits their execute orders phase, they're forced to initiate battle. They can't do anything else. And so you could send a Sultanah clock down and, possibly like lock an opponent down a little bit. This would be a really good card that could be seriously boosted, and then design, balance, would be able to tweak that because you're already errating it. So you'd be able to tweak it so to make it interesting. I think there's a lot of potential for Sultanah clock getting an errata that would actually make it both useful and actually really good. And would be a way that you can actually kind of like slow the game down a little bit, but also open up a lot of possibilities. It could just be like, may only seed under an opponent's mission. So like Sultanah clock could be something where it keeps this, it becomes an equipment, but you can only seed it under an opponent's mission. Like they have to acquire it, and then, it could be pretty fun. Samuel Clement's Pocket Watch is got its uses, but it is mostly garbage. It would need help. I'm not sure what to do with it. Since we're changing these if we were to theoretically change all those other artifacts to use as equipment artifacts, Starry Night just by its very nature gets better. And that would be a good thing. I love Starry Night. I wish it would see more play, but the options for other uses, equipment artifacts, is limited. So turning some of those other artifacts into use as equipment cards would be a great way to boost Starry Night without doing anything. Sort of Kalos, very limited use. Tantalus Field has a very strong limitation that should not be changed. I think Tantalus Field is exactly good the way it needs to be. The book, I think the book is a good card that hasn't seen play yet because it's one seat slot to do something. It's just kind of gain a skill. But again, if this was one that you could like stick on that theoretical pitch card where you randomly get an artifact, this could be a good one, because then you just, it'd be one you'd be willing to include, because then you could, your non-aligned person would gain the name affiliation and then the skill, so it could be pretty cool if you're playing a deck that has a bunch of non-aligned people in it. City of Bahala, I think, is perfectly fine the way it is. I don't see a way that I'd want to change this card at all. Earring of Lenalis, kind of same thing. It's doing what it's meant to do. So it's just a shame that it really is just a shame that what it is doing isn't powerful enough in the game anymore. Genesis Device is on the watch list to be toned down, so we're not even going to touch that one. Great Teacher is a card. The Great Teacher is an artifact that I think should see more play, but it just doesn't, because again, it's taking up a whole seed slot. And by the time you would actually acquire it and possibly use it, it's too late for it to even matter, and has a countdown icon and stuff. But the Great Teacher, another like perfect example of an artifact that could go on that hypothetical, that hypothetical pitch card, and just, I randomly pick the Great Teacher. Oh, that's cool. This dude has 2 of every regular skill. I'm busting dilemmas now. Be awesome. I know that Thoughtmaker was already called out as one that's going to get. It's going to get probably some errata to it, so I'm not even going to talk about it. Time Travel Pod is banned. It definitely needs a rework, so we won't even. It's gonna get reworked to even come off the ban list. We need to talk about it. Tox Utot is also banned because of its interaction with Supernova. From what I understand, it is also going to be getting an errata to come off the ban list as part of Premier Remastered. So we're going to see cards come off the ban list just because of the fact that if they're doing this Premier Remastered set, if you're going to do that at all of those Premier cards that are banned, I mean, that's your time to change them, so I'd expect to see them all come off. I mean, same with like Rogueborg Mercenaries, we're going to probably finally see that one. Trilithium weapon does not need any help or to be changed. What it just needs is more things to target, and is yet another example of a card where if you got to seed an artifact for free, or was on that hypothetical pitch card, that if you randomly pulled a Trilithium weapon, you'd have a mission that you could use it on, and it'd be pretty cool to do that. I actually have an idea for a deck for the Trilithium weapon that I'm going to work on and hopefully have for you in the future. I don't want to talk about it any more than that. Guarantee Disruptor is exactly what it's supposed to be. No notes, it's good. Vulcan Stone of Gaul. Vulcan Son of Gaul, I don't know what to say about this one. Maybe it gets a change, maybe it doesn't. It's a premier card, so it might, so I'll just pass over it. And Zephyr Conquering Telescope is good the way it is. I don't necessarily think that anything needs to change about it. So yeah, I think there's ways that we could change and work with artifacts to make them better and more relevant, and I hope that they do that this year. Next, Ferengi. Needing a lot of help. So, next week's video is about Ferengi. So look forward to that video here in a week. And you're going to see why they need a lot of help. And the big reason why they need a lot of help is that for them to be able to handle certain dilemmas that are extremely popular in the game, like they absolutely need to have like certain personnel in the deck, or they need to get specific help from other places in order to be able to even do it. So Ferengi have like entire like sections of popular of dealing with dilemmas where they just cannot deal with them without serious help. And if they need serious help from non-aligned people and other affiliations, then what are we doing here, right? So Ferengi also suffer from a problem where for them to do all the things they need to do, they burn the clock a ton, and so they tend to have a very hard time winning the game in time. And then of course the 1 or 2 deck type for Ferengi that actually are good just get instantly nerfed, because then they're finally good, but it's always too good. I'm talking about Bronze Shuttle. So Ferengi need help. They need new things to do. The Ferengi have only 1 warp reactor card for TNG. They have only one warp engine icon card for continuing mission. They have only 1 reactor card for Deep Space Nine, and then Voyager they got nothing, and then all property is just a bit of a mess for them. Like, it's such a hodgepodge of stuff that, I mean, at best you could say like Ferengi Conference is kind of their all property deck that they do, which I've done videos on that before. But Ferengi are fun when you play them, but it's so difficult to put a deck together for them. They are extremely difficult to pilot because they have so many moving parts all the time that they're not easy. They're very difficult, and therefore they're not really popular for people to play. So Ferengi need a lot of help, and they're now the worst affiliation in the game now that Vidian got all their big help and Vidians are getting played. Ferengi are now like the odd man out, where nobody plays them because they're difficult, they're not very powerful, they just don't do anything in the game quickly. And so but look forward to my video next week, and you'll see that it's just a ton of moving parts and difficulty and whatnot. I'm not saying that they're bad. Okay, I don't want to make it sound like I think the Ferengi are bad, but they just need help having a vision, right? They need more kind of like, they need more focus. And it is like, for them, it is like, it's hard to explain. The way that you play the Ferengi now, like, to score points in a way that makes sense for Ferengi, they have to do like 4 things. You have to like do a thing to get a thing, to turn that into another thing, to get a thing, to do the thing, and then there you go. And while that obviously is very on brand and is the whole idea of like the Ferengi, like, you know, great material continuum of things becoming things to make money or whatever, it's still, it's too many steps in a game where there's a clock, right? You play in a tournament, you've got all these rounds. You have an hour and 15 minutes. And if you spend 5 to 10 minutes of that game just turning Latinum to draws, the draws back into Latinum back into draws again, to do a thing, to go over to here, to do this, like, you're just so much time, you know? So what the Ferengi need is some cards, some personnel that would help kind of take this kind of ADHD-ness that is how they get played and kind of like focused it into something. So, and then speaking of which, that leads us to Vulcans. Vulcans need an identity. Basically, all of their core cards, their IDIC cards, one got nerfed hard, the other one got nerfed sort of, and the third one is not really all that good to begin with. And so the Vulcans are kind of facing the same problem as the Ferengi, which is they kind of lack an identity. They kind of lack focus right now because, you know, like they can't. None of the things they can do, they you know, are things that they can do well enough. Now again, Vulcans are also a deck where, if you do sit down and you do work on building a deck, you can build a good deck with them. Same with Ferengi. If you actually put in the work, you can build a good deck. But Vulcans also suffer from the same problem, you know, the Ferengi have, which is that, like, yeah, they can do the things that they do, but those things take time. Those things are not really focused. Those things are not efficient, right? Even in the sense of, like, well, not every deck has to be like this super fast solver deck. Well, but it still needs to be something that's efficient for what it is that it's doing, and Vulcans just don't even have that. So, Vulcans also need help. And I said this to Chris here a couple of weeks ago, but it's become like even like more crystallized in my mind that like Vulcans are just, you know, Vulcans and Ferengi in particular, you know, these two affiliations, you know, that who and what design chooses to work on is very much a product of their own personal preferences and biases. That the people who are on the design team, and I don't mean this as an insult, for anyone who's on the design team who's listening to me, I understand we all have our preferences and our biases. Everybody does. But you've got Vulcans and Ferengi, you know, sitting out there. Yes, you can build a decent deck with them, but they're not focused. You know, they're all over the damn place. And yet, Starfleet has been given like 5 different ways to play the game, right? And so clearly, like, who's ever on design, these different design teams, who's ever deciding what's happening here, you know, the powers that be, the decision makers, it's like, who's got the soft spot for Starfleet? That Starfleet keeps getting entire, like, here's the bridge crew again, and a whole new way for them to play the game again. Meanwhile, Vulcans are like, well, you had 3 IDIC cards, but they were just too good, so we're going to nerf them and nonsense, and we're not going to replace them really, and we're not going to give them anything new. And, you know, how long has it been since a Vulcan affiliation card was released? Period. Right? So, and same with Ferengi. When was the last time you saw anything like that was like good or decently like focused on Ferengi? Yet Starfleet has been given new stuff routinely. So I'm just saying, I think that I think these two affiliations are the ones that need help in different ways, but in the common sense of like they need design to give them something that can help, you know, refocus them a little bit. You know, they're what the Ferengi are and who the Vulcans are and what they do. It's a little blurry. It needs focusing. So, last 2 items on my wish list for 2025. One is whatever happened to the errata for Universal Space. We got the errata for Universal Nebula, and it can now see it in any quadrant. Well, then whatever happened to Universal Space that was supposed to follow it, you know, very surely. We were told that, oh, yep, look for the errata to Universal Space. very soon. Whatever happened to that? Or, I mean, I don't know. So hopefully we see that here in 2025. And then lastly, what is the situation with all the errata to the banned cards? Like I said, go check out my video from December 2023. The real question is what banned cards are the priority? Well, clearly we've got the answer to that, sort of. The cards from Premier that are banned are going to be the ones to get it first because of Premier Remastered. But beyond them, it seems to me like the answer is actually pretty simple. We need to get Cybernetics Expertise back as a play engine for a few decks that needed Cybernetics Expertise as an additional play engine for help. Holographic Camouflage was such a fun idea, and it really is a shame that Holographic Camouflage has not been reworked, to come back. Jem'Hadar Shrouding is, to me, like, so egregious that it's been on the ban list for so long and has not been brought back, when, as I say in the video, in 2023, it's like the template's already been shown for how to bring it back. It's just a question of just doing it. Instead of having it be the way it is, you turn it into the same sort of, Klingon troop deployment, sleeper trap type of a thing, where it's the only way it triggers is from dilemmas that are seeded. So the fact that Jem'Hadar Shrouding hasn't come back yet, it should be a priority, because it would be another way to help, make more good dilemmas out there instead of people still playing the same old dilemmas. We need more good dilemmas in the game to diversify the choices. And so here's Jem'Hadar Shrouding, which is just sitting there waiting to be brought back out as a new good dilemma, possibly. So. And then I've talked before about how Romulan Minefield needs to come back. It was also a card that was really good and was definitely too good when it was out there. But when Vulcans lost Romulan Minefield as a scheme card, that was kind of, it's kind of the people's exhibit A of the fact that design design and balance have nerfed Vulcans and then done nothing to help them out again. I'm just going to sit here with the cursor on scanner interference. Everybody in the community who knows me knows that I have spent years and years and years screaming about how scanner interference should just literally come back exactly how it is, because the cards that it touches and it talks about have all already got their errata. So scanner interference is no longer a problem. Scanner interference was banned because of its use in having locking planet missions out, or damn near locking planet missions out. Well, everybody talks about the game being too fast now, and here's scanner interference having the ability to download cards that slow down the game, and it's like, no, we can't bring scanner interference back. Bring it back. Free scanner interference. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. I hope you enjoy your 2025. I hope we all get to have another great year of playing this game that we love. Hopefully the powers that be, design, balance, etc., rules, that they all work with us here to get these cards back out, so that we can have not just new sets come out, but existing cards come back into the fold. Because I've said this before, I think everybody loves having a banned card come back. We all like to welcome these prodigal children back into the fold. So so there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and free scanner interference.